And this is
that was a picture.
all right, good position.
How do I switch it to video?
I have to make sure that my face doesn't break the camera.
It's easy. I'll tell you that. I got it.
How do you take it out, start the video, and then
Because it stops when you put it
that part out?
It's a good angle.
Because it's there we go. I don't know.
It's called the tripod.
All right, there we go. I think this is set. All right, perfect. All right, Mr. Fox, and feel free to talk because I can edit out anything. Just
So you edit out my voice?
well, I mean, if you're saying something good, I won't. So, all right, Rabbi Brownstein, the general conduct that we do, could you pass me my suit, is that we first ask whoever's name is, and then we ask what their position on Odysseus is, whether he's guilty of war crimes or whether he's a terrible person or whether he's a completely innocent man. Well, that's not what I meant. I just needed my handkerchief. Thank you, Mr. Fox. And that's about it. So,
Okay, whatever you ask me, if I can respond intelligently, I will try.
okay.
If I can't respond intelligently, then I won't. I won't make that effort. Because why should I say something which is less than appreciated?
All right, very well. So, Matan, get a film of the set, all right? Avidan, say over to Matan what I told you. All right, so, Rabbi Brownstein, so what is your name?
My name is Rabbi Mordechai Brownstein. On official records, I go by my English name, which is Rabbi Martin Brownstein. So if you need a recommendation and you want to submit my name, you should submit my English name.
Very well.
That's how colleges know me.
That's how colleges know you, all right?
Yes.
And what is your position on Odysseus in the Odyssey?
Okay. I cannot give you a one-word answer. I must say three things about that.
Very well.
Number one, I haven't read the Iliad and the Odyssey for many years, so it's sort of like not clear. It's sort of like nebulous in my mind.
Definitely.
Okay. That's number one. Number two, I don't like the Iliad and the Odyssey as pieces of literature, nor as reflections of Greek culture. And I'll explain why I'm saying that. And then we'll get to what my feeling is about Odysseus. I won't take up too much of your time. When we speak about Homer, and by the way, Homer is mentioned in the Mishnah in Masechta Yadayim. So Chazal knew about him.
Yeah.
He's called Homeri. When speaking about Homer, we're talking about someone who lived in a pre-Socratic time. Now, Socrates speaks about what he calls in the Greek language arete. Arete means virtue. In Socrates' way of thinking, and especially if we refer to the Aristotelian book of ethics, the Nicomachean ethics, then the arete, Socrates wants to know what virtue is. So I'm going to leave that alone because that's a never-ending question with Socrates. I'm not going to go into the arena with him and debate that because you never win with Socrates.
Yes.
But I'll go to Aristotle. In speaking with Aristotle, I find that Aristotle says that a person must be bold and brave and not do anything that is crazy. In other words, a soldier has to be ready to die for the cause, whatever that cause is, but not die for the cause unnecessarily. So according to Aristotle, the arete, the virtue that we expect a soldier to have is to be bold, but to be smart, to know when to make the sacrifice and how to make that sacrifice, and not make that sacrifice in a way that his life will be spent unnecessarily. But this is only true after Socrates. After we investigate what a person should be doing, how to find purpose in life. In the pre-Socratic age, we don't find those questions. The pre-Socratic philosophers are concerned with the material world. They're not even concerned with God, as Socrates and Plato are. They're concerned with the material world and how it began. Because something which is very elementary to the Greeks is cause and effect. And looking around at the material world, they see an effect, and therefore they want to know what the cause was. And again, excuse me, it's my after lunch cough. And again, they're not talking about the causer. They're not talking about a prime cause, like Aristotle will call God a prime cause. They're talking about the cause of the fundamental material that the material world is built of. So Thales will say that it's water. Anaximander will say that it's air, or someone else. Anaximenes will say that it's something nebulous, like vapor or a cloud or whatever. That is the fundamental material of our world. So they were not concerned with man and what man has to do and what makes a life of valor, a life of virtue. Homer fits right into that. And then we can get to Odysseus. I personally don't like Odysseus. The reason why I don't like him is because I'm not a pre-Socratic. I'm Socratic, I'm Platonic, I'm Aristotelian. I need a life that's defined, or to put it in their words, a life that's examined. As Socrates would say, a non-examined life is not worth living. Odysseus doesn't have an examined life. Odysseus has a path. He has a path from Troy to Ithaca. That path is a symbol of life as a whole. All of life is a path. It's a path between 2 points. It begins in the womb, and it ends at the grave. So all of our lives are between Troy and Ithaca, except we have a different Troy and a different Ithaca. But in this path that we entertain, and the things that challenge us on this path are not sensuous pleasure. They are not the lack of responsibility in dealing with a crew that will be devoured by a monster or seduced by some beautiful woman. I'm a teacher, I have a class, I have responsibilities for them. My responsibility is for them to learn and to grow. I happen to teach English, but it wouldn't make a difference. Once upon a time, I was Rav in a shul. My responsibility to the congregation was, as a Rav, to be a spiritual leader. Once upon a time, as a matter of fact, 3 times before I was principal in different schools in Brooklyn, I had a responsibility to my students. Those responsibilities were things that I took very seriously, and sometimes I didn't sleep well at night because of them. Odysseus has no responsibility for the men that are his crew. He doesn't take responsibility for them at all. And not only that, he doesn't take responsibility for himself except for the basic human instinct of survival. He could spend his time with females. When he gets to the vicinity of the sirens, all his men are instructed to be blindfolded and not to look, but he wants to look. He wants to be enticed. But he knows that he can't resist, so therefore he's chained to the mast of a ship. He's chained or tied to the mast of a ship just to keep him from acting in a way that he knows he would have to give up on his journey and remain there forever with them. So that is not responsibility to oneself either. To be enamored with such a figure and to consider him heroic, because eventually he does end his journey at Ithaca. And, well, we'll get to the end of his journey in a moment. But I could not consider that a life of valor in any way, except in a pre-Socratic setting where an examined life is not something of valor, not valorated. And I don't live my life that way, and therefore I cannot appreciate the way Odysseus lived his life. Now, getting to the end of the journey, now I envision that the end of a human journey is the grave, but that's not who we are. We are more than the grave. Our life is more than just a flame that goes out. We do things with our life. And I think that for the most part, the vast majority of us will do things for society. The vast majority of us will do things to improve the quality of life for other people. And the vast majority of us will take responsibility for our own lives because we're in a position that our life will affect the life of others. So in a sense, when we take care of ourselves, when I brush my teeth, it's for me to be healthy so that I can communicate with others. That's why I took my COVID-19 shots, because I have students and I don't want them to be ill. I wasn't so worried about myself. I was worried about them and the dozens and dozens of people that I come in contact with after school. Odysseus doesn't have that sense of responsibility. Is not even responsible for himself, and doesn't even look at himself as somebody who should be responsible for others. So, as I say, even though our Ithaca is the grave, but we're coming to the grave with suitcases full of important manuscripts that we've accumulated during our lifetime. We're coming to that grave to submit our life's work for a higher scrutiny. Odysseus is not doing that. Odysseus comes home to his wife and tells her the big lie, that he was faithful to her, which is a big lie. And he's only telling her that because maybe he thinks that she was faithful to him, which is also a big lie. And they lied to one another, and she hardly recognizes him, so he has to, he's back to square one, where he's got to court her, so to speak, again. And then they embrace and kiss and do what married people do that we don't want to speak about presently, which is not the end of the road. That should not be the end of the path. Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Plotinus, Diogenes, I'll throw Greek names at you. That would not be the end of the path for them. Just to have a hug and a kiss from your wife and to take her to bed. That would not, it's not a valoried end of the path. It's not their Ithaca. And so what we're doing is we're celebrating a brute life, which only Homer in a pre-Socratic society could celebrate. So I don't favor Odysseus in anything that he did. I see no real bravery in it. I see no action on behalf of a purpose, of a cause. And I see no reason to celebrate him as a hero. As a matter of fact, he's not even a tragic hero. He's, in my estimation, he's a failure.
Very interesting. So I guess you answered so many questions that we might have asked. That was very comprehensive. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go daven mincha now.
Can we ask one last question?
Okay.
I mean, what time is it? I don't want to keep you.
We're about a minute and a half before mincha, something like that.
So I guess very, very quick question. Do you think ethically what Odysseus did to the suitors at his house was correct when he murders all of them?
I don't believe that someone should take another person's life unless A, the person has legal authority to do that, which Odysseus did not have, and B, the crime is a cardinal crime. And I don't necessarily mean a cardinal crime according to the Torah. I mean, it's a cardinal crime, such as a crime that involves, how shall we put it, licentious behavior, which in Greek society it was not, or a crime where a person took another person's life. And so therefore, measure for measure, his life should be taken. Or I mean, I don't really believe that, but in Greek society, that certainly would be condonable, maybe commendable. But those suitors did not do any of that. It was